Hello and welcome to the Service-Based Business Society podcast. I am your host, Tiffany-Ann. On our weekly episodes, we will dig into everything you need to know about scaling your service-based business without losing sleep. With my experience in creating over 7 figures per month and a passion for marketing, finance, and automation, this show will provide tangible tips and techniques for scaling your business. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. This week, we will be answering one of our listeners' questions. The listener reached out with a question. This very question has gone through every business owner's mind, even if it's not necessarily in these exact words. The thought process and the overarching question, it exists in everyone's mind. This particular person was asking, what is the appropriate blend of working in the business and on the business? So first, let's talk about these terms. In the business, we're looking at potentially still being part of revenue generation. Maybe you're on site performing the service. Maybe you are, still dealing hands-on with clients. You are part of the service providing team. Or maybe it's just you providing that service. We're talking about working on the business. We're talking about the bigger picture of management, strategy, visions, objectives. Really, in a more typical traditional business setting, this is like, your executive team, your managers, not necessarily part of a revenue generation. Maybe they're not dealing directly with the clients. They are instead working on the business. And so creating this perfect blend of the two, and what is that perfect blend, was our listener's question. So I said, hey, this is a great question, and I am going to answer this question, but I'm going to do it on the podcast episode. So I encourage you to do the same. If you have a question that you would like answered on a future episode, join us in the Facebook community, and you can send me a private message or post anonymously in the group with your question, and you too can have your question answered here on an episode just like this. Back to our question and this, balance of in the business versus on the business. And where our listener was truly struggling, she enjoys working in the business, but does not enjoy working on the business. So you have someone who, as her team grows, she continues to spend less and less time working in the business and more time working on the business. And what happens is she is not happy with the work being done on site. She wants and enjoys that interaction with the clients, and instead feels a little bit trapped in her office, unable to really do the work that she loves. Kind of concept of building a business that ultimately doesn't serve the satisfaction of the entrepreneur is so common. It's why I wanted to answer it today on the episode, because we ultimately must remember why we started and really keep that objective in mind. You've heard me once, you've heard me twice. If you've been listening for a while, I often refer back to what is the actual objective. If you absolutely love providing the service, then doing less and less of that may not sound ideal. Often we are drawn to what we know. It really comes down to a comfort zone piece, not a preference. You feel most comfortable working in the business because you've done it longer. Perhaps you don't like change. And so, you default or lean towards working in the business rather than this new, leading a team, leading an organization as your business grows can become a little more stressful. It's new challenges. And so this may not be the comfort zone. And so step 1 is to determine what is a true preference and what is really guided by the desire to be comfortable. Growth does not occur in the comfort zone. Growth occurs on the edge of the comfort zone. If we want to think about taking the comfort zone and stretching it bigger, we must do things that push up against the edge of that comfort zone to stretch it bigger. And, so step 1, as we're really diving into in versus on the business, step 1 is to decide what are your true preferences. Forget about comfort zone. What are your true preferences? Can your core skills and attributes serve your your business best. Because some people offer their business much better value by being in the business than they do on the business. Because not everyone has the ability to manage a business or a group of people. And that's okay. It's almost kind of this implied, assumed piece of being an entrepreneur is, you want to get out of the field. You want to stop providing the service and you want to run the business. And while for some people that is the right step, that isn't for everyone. And so, if we look at step one as deciding what is truly a preference and not governed by what is. So step one, we really need to just decide what is a true preference is the decision that is ultimately being influenced by the desire to be comfortable. Step two, how does our skills and attributes best serve the business and your lifestyle? We are working to live, not living to work. And even as someone who truly loves what I do, when we look at the root, why we started, if we think back, if you haven't read the Simon Sinek book, starts with why, and think back to why. I remember going through this exercise many years ago, and ultimately the second person to most things just says, but why? So if you say, well, I do it for my family. Well, because I want my family to have a certain lifestyle. I want my family to, be happy. Well, I want my family to know that they're cared about and, that they never go without. And so I strive to provide. And so, and the question, of course, then would be, but why? So you can keep going deeper and deeper. Interesting book. Simon Sinek starts with why. If you haven't read it, highly recommend. So we talk about, step one being comfort zone versus preference. And step two, what serves the business the best? Where do your skills, attributes, and desires fit into this piece of serving the business? And the decisions that you're making, the disclaimer on this is the decisions you're making are not forever, and you're not married to any one decision. Often, we try to hire, whether that's for that in the business or on the business. Sometimes people hire someone to help manage, and other times, we hire a team to execute the services. And no matter what that is, wherever we are, obtaining additional resources from, it all has to support that bigger picture. It all has to support the objectives and the direction. We had step one where we're looking at preferences versus comfort zone. And then step two, looking at how the different skills, attributes, and lifestyles really serve the business, the success. So often we see the entrepreneur who is in their own way. And so you want to prevent, being in your own way and preventing your success. You don't want to be the reason you're not successful. And so sometimes it really takes that, taking that step back, looking at it from 30,000 feet and saying, hey, I am not the right person to be doing X in my business. If your business is growing very quickly, chances are there's a lot of learning for anyone who is a part of your business. And sometimes if, a business or organization is growing faster than people in the organization, people get outgrown. It's very unfortunate. In a high growth business, in a startup situation, sometimes it's just, whatever's going on in the business doesn't align with people or systems or anything that has supported the business to date. And so that is, that next piece. And then part three is deciding what are the non-negotiables of your business. If you are a lawyer who has been to law school, chances are you are going to be working in the business, generating billable hours. You are the lawyer, and perhaps hiring someone to assist with the managers, and perhaps hiring someone to assist with the management, maybe an office manager, the best way to achieve your goals. You're not going to hire someone off the street to fill in that, to replace the lawyer role while you do the management. That doesn't make sense. But for someone else who has, created a business and has created this, whatever that service is, there's this Okay, part 3, we've gotten through our first 2 sections here, and now we need to get to what are the non-negotiables of our business. If you have a special education, credentials, something that means you are the person who needs to be performing the services, you might be spending a lot more time working in the business, generating revenue. If that is the case, it makes more sense to hire for someone to help work on the business. So ultimately, how that serves the business. So before really answering any question in terms of what is the best blend, what works best, there's more questions to ultimately determine what are the business objectives. How does each person's role ultimately support? Then for question number 3, what are the non-negotiables? So if you have special education credentials that mean you need to be really a part of the day-to-day services, example, maybe a lawyer or a massage therapist. If you have gone to school, have some form of credentials that are required, the decision to, let's use that massage therapist as an example, the decision to stop or cut back on the massaging to manage the business, well, that would be a decision to, be hiring additional massage therapists and to continue to go that direction. In that situation, one must decide, does that make the most sense? Or would it make more sense to hire an experienced manager to manage and oversee the business side of things, and that massage therapist continue being a massage therapist? And so, there's a few different theories. There's 100 combinations of things that work, but these are the 3 pieces that must be kept in mind when we're trying to decide what that balance is. If you truly love working in the business, if this is what fuels your soul, then don't build a business that never has you working in the business. I was on a call recently and we were having a very similar discussion about they were trying to sell me on the fact that I was never going to have to work with clients directly, that they were going to be, it was basically kind of almost outsourcing sales, really. And so, they were talking about not having to work with these clients at all. And so now that we understand that there is really no perfect blend, very industry dependent, preference dependent, comfort level, how your skills and attributes best serve the business and the business achieving its objectives, there's something we need to think about, and that is the A.D.O framework. So touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the episode. And so this is my recommendation. When someone asks me, what is this perfect blend? There is no perfect blend. It ultimately is so dependent on you and your business. However, what does apply to these situations is the A.D.O framework. So when we look at these pieces, can we automate it? Can we delegate it? Can we optimize it? If you're, really feeling like you're doing too much of any one thing and it's preventing you from doing something else that is important, you become the bottleneck. And so as these pieces are crossing your desk, your task list, your email, whatever, however you're keeping track, it's, can I automate it? Can I delegate it? And can I optimize it? And in that order, automation, once set up, is very consistent. If we can automate things, we have a fairly, static cost. We can track our return on investment for setting up automations. And so, preference number 1, let's automate that, whatever that process is. Now, back to our massage therapist example, we can't automate providing a massage. I mean, you can. Many have attempted with some fancy chairs and whatnot, but it's not the same. You cannot automate not and achieve the same results. Then we go to, can we delegate it? Can someone else do that task? This comes to, creating content for social media. Maybe you need to delegate some of that. And remember, it's not always all or nothing. Perhaps it's you want to delegate the content creation, but only the graphics. Maybe it's the hashtags. It's taking these different pieces of your business and and really deciding what you want to do in a way that serves you as the business owner and the business in terms of achieving success. Can we automate it? Can we delegate it? And can we optimize it? So if we cannot automate something and we cannot delegate it away, that means it's stuck with us. Now we need to optimize the process. We've touched on it in previous episodes, but optimizing your operations puts money directly into your pocket. We often hear and there's the popularity right now surrounding cold outreach is astounding. As a business owner, you get tons of emails and messages and all sorts of things, everybody trying to sell you something. Optimize it. Can we optimize it? Optimizing a process directly adds profit to your pocket. That's where we want the profit, in the pocket. When we do things to generate more sales, sales equals stress. More sales, more stress. More sales, more risk. Anytime you put anything in your business, there is risk that something can go wrong. It's that old expression, cross the road. There's risk in crossing the road. If you are, outperforming your service, there is risk associated. So more sales equals more stress. Optimizing a process takes that profit, takes the difference, the savings in time and money, and gives it directly back to you. The question here then is, would you rather have a business that sells $5 million a year and makes $50,000 profit? Or would you rather have a business that sells $3 million a year, $70,000 in profit? Most people will choose the $3 million a year or the $70,000 in profit because there is less sales, there is less stress, there is less risk, and your process is that much better. You want to scale bigger. If you want more sales, you want to maintain the profit margin, which reflects the optimized processes, and you want to scale that. Scaling an inefficient business is just a bigger inefficient business. That doesn't help anyone. You will never outsell poor optimization because you just have more of the same. As much as there is no answer to what is the perfect blend of working in the business versus on the business, because this is so business and business owner specific, what is the same recommendation each time is the A.D.O framework. Can we automate it? Can we delegate it? Can we optimize it? Well, we are all out of time for today. If you guys have not joined the Service-Based Business Society Facebook community, make sure you head on over to Facebook and we can continue the conversation. Be sure to also follow the show by going to any podcast app and searching Service-Based Business Society. Click subscribe, click the 5th star, and leave us a written review. Have a great week, and we will see you soon.